let's talk a little bit about anxiety. My anxiety and the natural ways I've dealt with it. So I'm not a practitioner, I'm not here to diagnose or treat or offer any form of medical advice. I'm here as a sister talking to you about how I dealt with a very, very challenging issue in my life. So as you know, I turned my son's autism around, and by doing that, I also learned about the underlying biomedical issues and neurological issues behind my anxiety, and those are the ones I'm going to talk about today. So I'm not going to talk about the emotional, the childhood trauma and all those things. I've talked about that in previous videos, and I probably will cover that as well. Everything always has an emotional issue, an emotional side to it as well, but we're not going to talk about that now. Today it's going to be about how I use nutrition and nutrients to stay calm and nature. So I have, just like my child on the spectrum, which is now turned around and has no symptoms, pyrrole disorder. I have an issue with copper overload. I have a gene variant, and that gene variant makes it really difficult for me to turn GABA to glutamate, to convert GABA to glutamate. And I have methylation issues. We're not going to get into the technical details, so don't sweat it, don't get stressed already. What I want to tell you is what I avoid eating and what I do eat and what I do take to stay calm. Tip number 1 when it comes to anxiety is avoid triggers, so possible triggers. Now, you probably haven't tested yourself and your biotype. If you have serious symptoms, you might want to, and you need to find someone who's really good at doing the Walsh practitioner protocols. There are not a lot of them, and that's why I'm putting together a course with the best one in Europe, probably the best in the world, and it's coming up in February, so you can do the tests yourself and then learn how to interpret them. I avoid glutamate foods. Many people who struggle with anxious and aggressive behavior have an underlying issue with either copper or glutamate. So glutamate is a neurotoxin. Glutamate is something we need in the body to have action and to go out and do things, but it needs to be balanced with GABA, and some people cannot balance things out when it comes to the balance between GABA, who is a calming neurotransmitter, and glutamate, who is this action, agitation, excitatory. So I avoid glutamates because I tend to have an excess of glutamate in the system. And you can Google what is high in glutamate. It is the most surprising things. So for example, protein powder based on pea protein, and bouillon and bone broth and all the things we love and use, probably many of the things you use every day in your life, the snack nuts you like, the chili nuts, the dry roasted peanuts, all those things, and anything that has MSG in it is high in glutamate. So that's something that you must avoid at all cost if you want to try and see if this is the issue behind your anxiety and your child's anxious behavior or agitated behavior or tantrums. It is not dangerous to exclude glutamate-rich foods because glutamate-rich food has always been heat-treated and processed and is not a natural form of food. So it's not anything, you don't need any foods that are high in glutamate, and you can easily avoid them. So Google glutamates, avoid those. I limit my intake of high copper foods. I'm much more tolerant to copper, and I have balanced my copper to zinc ratio levels by taking zinc. I would never take supplements without collaborating with a practitioner. But if you want to experiment with it, it's at your own risk. Any side effects that might occur from doing it, it's on your own risk, at your own risk. But some people can balance out their high copper levels by taking zinc, just in small dosages, because you do want copper. You need copper for healthy blood flow, you need copper for your hair, you need copper for, especially if you're pregnant. But many of us have this issue with accumulating copper, and it's the underlying issue behind postnatal depression and postnatal reactions and anxiety and depression. So copper, I never take any supplements with copper in it, and I would never suggest anyone else do that, because copper, it's not a safe supplement. You need the right balance between copper and zinc, and you can test whether you have that or not. But I can tolerate copper-rich foods, but I don't take it in a supplement. If I take supplements that's got copper in them, or if I go overboard with the chocolate and the almond milk and the almond bread and eat that every day, I don't know if you know, but that's one of the things that are really high in copper, and cashew nuts as well. So I keep an eye on my reactions when I eat those things. I get outside every day. I have my spiritual practice. I get outside. I thank the earth. I thank the wind. I thank the sun. I thank the water and the ancestors and the divine guidance. I have this beautiful practice where I let the sun hit my skin, and I meditate in the garden, even though it's cold most days. I do it outside. And then I do my brain development program. And that brain development program has been developed by my soulmate Winford Dore. That program is magic. I do it most days because it frees up working memory, it stimulates the cerebellum, and long story short, it is effective when it comes to emotional control. It is effective when it comes to mood stabilization, when it comes to dealing with change. So because I'm a very creative person, I tend to get an overload in my working memory. And the working memory can only store about 7 things. You run out of storage in the working memory within 5 minutes from you wake up, when the alarm clock starts your day. Doing Sing makes me much more resourceful, much more calm and peaceful. My mood is totally stable, and I'm calm and peaceful. And as you can see, I'm doing a lot of things. I have my meditation practice, my spiritual practice. I go out and I ground to the earth every day. I watch what I eat. I make sure that I don't do any high histamine foods either. I don't do any bone broth or kombucha and stuff like that. I don't do any green juices in large amounts every day because of my undermethylation that can enhance mood swings and depression as well. And then I want to share a little herbal tip with you. This is something you need to consult your physician or medical practitioner, or always do that when you take a supplement. But this is something called canna. You can Google canna, or you can Google this weird word, Sciletium tortuosum. But it's called canna, K-A-N-N-A, and it's a herbal form of Valium. And all those things together, combined with a life where you live in full contact with your soul and you listen to your soul's guidance, you let go of the things that don't feel good, you release negative emotions, and you let go of food, relations, work, people, thought patterns that are not aligned with your truth and your purpose and who you truly are. Anxiety is often a messenger about us being in a wrong direction, us letting ourselves be trapped in status quo and the dysfunctional familiar, but that's another story for another day. I hope you will feel calmer soon.